everyone, welcome to recovery class. I am broadcasting from my home again, which is pretty much the first time I've ever done recovery video at home, so bear with me. I'm only going to shoot this once. There might be bloopers or whatever to give you a laugh, but we're going to do the best that we can. So the theme today is going to be chest, T-spine, shoulder kind of area, mostly focused on the T-spine. A lot of us are spending time in bad postural positions, whether it's slouching in a chair at the computer or looking at your phone or your iPad. A lot of kind of sitting postural positions lately. Also just stress and anxiety that can kind of build up in the T-spine area. So real quick, I'm going to go over a couple soft tissue options. If you don't have any of this equipment, that's okay. You can still watch the video part. You can fast forward to when we get started, but I do encourage you to watch because it might teach you something. So if you have a small lacrosse ball or a baseball or something that's pretty dense, you can use this for soft tissue release. So for the area that we're working on today, you can place the ball in the soft area in between your shoulder blades, but on either side of your spine. And you can do this either up against the wall if you've ever, I see Rayma do that a lot. She kind of gets onto the ball and starts to kind of use her body to press against the wall with the ball. So that's an option, or you can lay down onto the ground. And so the goal being is that you're releasing these tight muscles that basically fan over and around the shoulder blades. So generally I'll encourage people to get the ball on that soft tissue and just give it a second to lay into it. And then once you've rested and you're not tensing, you can start to move the arm either in this fashion or across. This would be called flossing. And if you're super tight in this area, it might not be the most comfortable thing to start on. I just started with the lacrosse ball since it's the smallest tool, but I'll go over a couple other areas. You can loosen this with the foam roller. But this is one way that we use the lacrosse ball to basically what it's called is like scapular realignment. So if your shoulder blades are sitting in kind of bad positions because the muscles are tight around them, then this will help to loosen that up. You can also get the lacrosse ball into the chest area. So I can kind of show you this up against the wall. So you basically want to get under your collarbone. There's a little soft pocket right there that you would place the ball in here. And then you can use the wall to kind of work your way through that. And then my other arm, I'm going to either push my body into the wall, and I can kind of feel that release using that breath. Okay. If you wanted to be able to move the arm, you can do this on the floor. So I'm going to stick that ball right in that soft area, and then I can use the arm in this position, and you can push against the floor. So you're creating a contract relax here, and then really kind of sink your chest into the ball, and then maybe even start to move the arm around a little bit, just rolling on that ball. So the goal there is to start to release in the pec minor and muscles that really shorten as you sit in this type of position. Those muscles shorten and tighten, and then this will help you to release it. I think that's the only one I had for that. This ends up being like a super helpful tool for the upper part of the shoulder blades. So it's kind of a perfect shape to fit right in here. So you can see the tops of the shoulder blades, like the tops of the wings. And then there's soft tissue in my spine in the middle. So I can use this dumbbell to kind of get into that area naturally, right where the traps are. So I would use this basically crossing the hands over and just kind of curling up a little bit. And then I can situate it around. Make sure that you're on soft tissue only. I can feel it kind of manually massaging in that area. And you can even use the arms to come up overhead, sinking back a little bit, draw up, curl across. And it basically provides itself like its own free massage. even if I'm just laying on it, I'm getting a bit of a soft tissue release in that tight area. And curl myself back up. Just this motion right here is basically providing a bit of a release, and I'm gonna do that with breath. So I like the dumbbell for that reason. It's not a very big one, but it just happens to have a good shape. And then the foam roller, most obvious, soft tissue. For today, I would probably just recommend that you use it for your T-spine. So I'm gonna start to roll here. I can get kind of over the shoulder blades. If I pivot over to one side, I'm gonna start to hit where that lat inserts underneath the armpit. So you can use this to just loosen the tissue. Sometimes I bring the arms up here. You want to make sure that you're breathing here and that you're not holding your breath and that you're not really spending time too long on one different area. It doesn't have to be a very long event, but just starting to free up that tissue, especially if you're very tight in here. This is a good place to start. Sometimes people can use a little bit of T-spine extension with the foam roller, but I try to caution you not to go too far with that. Bringing the hips up, letting the head dip back, and then maybe you're able to drop the hips down and try to keep that rib cage closed as much as you can. So those are just some ways to use the foam roller to loosen up the tight tissue in the thoracic spine, shoulder blades, and then the chest using that lacrosse ball. We might come back to using the foam roller, but I will provide you a couple different options if you don't have one. So now we're gonna go ahead and start the workout, and we're gonna start laying down. So you're gonna come all the way down onto your back, hip distance apart, and we're just gonna focus on breath. So go ahead and find your position there, and you have a small curve in your back. That's your natural lumbar curve, and you're just gonna start belly breathing. So you're gonna inhale through the nose, belly is gonna rise up, exhale through the mouth. So it'll look like this. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. I want you to continue breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth as I talk you a little bit through this. So as you're laying here, the belly should rise and fall as if it were an elevator, and as it goes up to the penthouse on that inhale, belly looks like a balloon. Exhale out of your mouth and start to really control the time it takes you to blow that air out. So this is a natural stress reliever when we practice that belly breathing. Floods the body with a ton of oxygen. That sends signals to the brain for relaxation, reset, scooping up a lot of hormones in the body that we don't want around or sticking around for long periods of time. Epinephrine, adrenaline, cortisol, norepinephrine. So just starting to practice some of that deep breathing, which I hope you're still doing now, breathing in through the nose, out through the mouth. That is basically just a signal from the brain to the body that we want to slow things down, providing a bit of a reset, a detox. So we do need to practice proper breathing. As we grow and age and develop bad movements and bad postures, our breathing will be compromised. So let's give that another inhale and exhale 2 more times. Take your time on that. Really slowing down that exhale. So as you draw the air in through the nose, really open up the throat to allow that air to release as much as possible. And just to bring us all back together, let's do that one more time. Inhale through the nose. Belly should rise like a balloon, not just in the chest. And then blow the air all the way out of your mouth. Okay. So I'm going to shift some of these things back, and we're going to go ahead and stand all the way up. Just to kind of get a little bit warm, I'm going to move my broom out of the way, and we'll come back to that. So I'm going to inhale, I'm going to the arms all the way up, and then I'm gonna exhale. I'm gonna forward fold, bend my knees a little bit here. I'm gonna inhale, and I'm gonna lift up halfway into a flat back, and then I'm gonna exhale into my forward fold. Inhale, walk your hands out into your high plank. Exhale, chest down towards the floor. Inhale into your cobra, and exhale into your downward dog. Now while you're here, go ahead and walk the dog. You're just bending one knee in, opposite heel pushes down from that bent knee. Just a good opportunity to open up the back of the legs, the calves, the Achilles. Maybe try to sink a little bit deeper into that downward dog, and then you're still breathing here. When you start working towards that exhale, walk your hands back towards your toes. You'll be in that forward fold. Soften the knees, and then inhale your body all the way up. Let's do that again. Exhale, sweeping the chest down towards the floor. Forward fold, inhale, halfway up, flat back. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, walking out into your high plank. Exhale, lowering the chest towards the floor. Inhale, scoop the chest up into cobra. Exhale, downward dog. Taking a breath here. Breathe in. Walk your hands back on that exhale. And bring the body all the way up. So, a couple drills or exercises that I've set up here. What you can see here is I have an ottoman, but you can find this exercise useful on a couch or a chair. You just literally need something to put your elbows on. So I'm just going to use my ottoman. Pull this sucker on over here. This is called working on thoracic spine extension. So thoracic spine's that middle of the back, in T-spine we call it. And a lot of people lack extension. So this is flexion. So extension would be in the opposite direction. And then we talk about the T-spine being with rotation. So here we're working on extension, obviously trying to overcome that chronic flexion that we get in the middle of our back from bad posture. So you're gonna come on over to your bench or table or chair or whatever. And I'm gonna just stack my elbows onto that. And you wanna have a width of your elbows that's comfortable. It shouldn't feel painful, or you should not feel impingement in the shoulder. So what I'm gonna do is just start to kind of slide my hips back a little bit. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna sink back as my ears come towards my biceps. I'm gonna sink back into that, and then I'm gonna lift myself back up. So notice we're not gonna stay in it too much like static. So you can keep the hands apart here, actually might be a little bit more effective. So as I sink back down, I start to feel that extension in my mid-back. Now, one thing to watch here is that you're not sinking your neck or your chin down, so it would look like this, kind of pushing that through. You don't want to do that. You want to try to keep your neutral spine. So I've got my hands apart, fist or open palm, and I'm going to start to sink back, but you want to try to keep your head from dropping down in between, like your nose is getting closer to the floor. So this is just a drill you would do about 10 times, and I can really feel that extension accentuated as I sit back in the middle of my back. So it's not painful. Maybe I would just say I feel a little bit of tension or a little bit of a stretch, but it's not static. You're going to keep moving with that, okay? So as I finish talking, you go ahead and add about 3 or 4 more of those. Again, just making sure you don't feel any impingement in the front of the shoulder. You just widen those elbows a little bit. And then also, we're not looking for something that's painful in the low back. You really should be targeting that into the mid back, okay? So that is a way that you can work on increasing the amount of extension that you have in your back to oppose the amount of time you spend in the opposite position where the mid-back is rounded into flexion. So we don't want to spend hours in that position without trying to kind of overcome that. And the goal here is that you're not only working on mobility, but strength through that, because that's really how we build that arsenal of stability in that area. If you just have mobility and no strength, then you don't win at the end of the day. If you have just strength and no mobility, still you're all locked up. So you really need to try to find a way to get mobile and strong in the muscles of the mid-back. Okay, enough talking. All right, so this is where I'm going to bring this foam roller back in. It doesn't really matter if you have a foam roller. It's just something that you're going to put your hands on. I think I used this picture on the Facebook post, but again, the rep count here is about 10. So if I don't get through 10 on the video, I want you to do that at home as I talk. So I don't care what you find here, like a small box, stack of books, whatever. I'm going to use my foam roller. And so I'm going to start here. I'm going to have my hands, my palms pushing into it. And I'm going to actively pull my shoulders back and down. So activating those retractors in my shoulders. And I start with that nose right above the mat. And I'm going to keep my thighs and feet on the mat. You don't want to start to activate the low back like we would if we had lifted up into Superman. Leave the low body on the mat. So all I'm going to do is, keeping in my neutral spine, is I'm going to really pull my shoulders back and down as I lift up. I've inhaled here, and I'm going to exhale down. So as I walk you through that, I want you to go through about 8 to 10 of these. So I've inhaled here, and I'm pulling my shoulder blades back and down, activating those muscles behind the shoulder. Exhale, lower back down. And super important that you don't try to look forward. So you're going to break that neutral spine there in the cervical spine. And we want to make sure that you really are looking down at the mat. It's a small range of motion. This is not a goal to see how much you can lift your chest off of the floor. It's small but important. So small movements, small muscle area. Again, I pull my shoulders back and down, and I lift up. I actually can start to feel this even under my armpits. Exhale and bring it back down. So as I walk you through that, keep doing a couple more. You want to really feel that right there in that middle of the back. You're going to start to feel the lats engage as you press down, and you're keeping that neutral spine. Imagine that if you had a ruler and it touched the back of your head and right between your shoulder blades, it would be straight. So the minute that you look up, you wouldn't be able to hold that ruler into place. So that should have given you enough time to get about 8 to 10 reps for further extension. Okay, so the other thing I'm going to do is lay on the foam roller, but I'm going to give you an option if you don't have it. So if you do, grab it now. So this is just a really good way to naturally release the chest. So I'm going to lay, my foam roller's a little shorter. Okay, so I've got my head on the foam roller because I don't want you kind of like hanging out, looking back in that way. And it's just basically laying across my spine. I'm going to hold my low body up a little bit. And so first I can do is just kind of like let my chest open up. I'm not super tight in the chest, but if this is enough for you to just feel tight, that should tell you something. But it's almost more like a snow angel. So I'm going to drag my fingertips up and just naturally reaching those fingertips over my head and letting them fan back down. I might rotate those palms here. So again, it's basically just using the foam roller to keep that spine along the length of it, and I'm opening and closing here. If you don't have that, another way to kind of get that same activation is a floor slide. So you come all the way down onto the floor, and I'm going to reach those arms up. So biceps by the ears, and then try, which I did not do a very good job there, to keep your wrists and forearms as much on the ground as you can. So I get to about here and you can see my wrist breaks from the ground. As I start to glide back up right here, I can pretty much feel from elbow to fingertip, I'm touching the ground. As I start to go up, 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 I'm gonna maybe get into a Y. If I go much further, I'm gonna lose that elbow contact onto the mat. So that's my range. And I'm gonna slide back down. So you're either really just making a snow angel on the foam roller, or you can go ahead and do your floor slides. Again, rep count about 10 to 12 of these, just a good way to work some of that shoulder mobility. I'll give you another minute to get that done. And then real quick, what I was showing in the beginning is if you can still use that foam roller, I think if you Google T-spine extension, the very first thing that you're gonna see is somebody kind of doing this over the foam roller, and I'd like to caution you to start small on that, because basically, like, anybody can kind of like flare their rib cage open and gain a little bit of extension, but you really don't need to do a lot of that. If I were to try to keep my rib cage down like it's in a corset, and try to open up my T-spine, you can see that I'm not going to be able to go as far if I'm really trying to keep my rib cage down. And that's okay. I'm still getting a little bit of extension in the T-spine. Even let's say I put my hips down. It's a lot harder with the hips down to keep your rib cage locked. But like right there, I can still get extension and then bring it back up. You don't have to have these goals to get the back of your head touching the floor, especially the first time that you're walking yourself through that. So that's about all I'm going to do with the foam roller. If you want to clear your space, I'm going to go ahead and stand up for just some joint rolls. Hopefully my head's still in the camera. We hope. So let's just start off just rolling the shoulders. Again, when we talked about this in my Pilates video, it's about just getting joint fluid moving around through the shoulders. That's called synovial fluid. And we do that most effectively with joint rolls. So a concern is if you have low joint fluid, that puts you at risk for arthritis, and that is nothing that somebody wants. Does that make sense? Nobody wants arthritis. Okay, I got it. All right, so let's go ahead and do your backwards arm circles. Why backwards first? I don't know, it just came to me. So I'm gonna so as I do this, I don't want you to start to arch through the back. You really wanna try to keep the rib cage down, working your circles. It's nothing complicated. Go ahead and switch forward. It's not complicated. You're just moving your arms in a circle in order to tell your body, hey, like that joint that I'm using right now, I would love it if you could supply me with enough fluid that moves smoothly, okay? That's it. And then I'm gonna turn to the side so you can see we're gonna do some chin nods. So I'm gonna tuck my chin down, let my chin travel up and down. So one thing I do have people tell me sometimes is they feel a lot of tension in the upper back, and just like doing chin nods, if that's bothersome to you because you start to feel it really pull right here in the middle, then this is the program that you need to start working on. Try to unlock that T-spine. Let's come back to center and just going side to side. Again, right now we're just interested in working through the shoulders, the neck, the mid-back. Of course, we could hit a few more joint rolls, but I'll get carried away on time. So now I've got my broom. I've been using this in my garage workouts. I think BJ or somebody was the first one to, maybe it was Sharon, talk about using the broom as genius, because I wouldn't have thought of it. So this is just basically going to start with some PVC dislocates. I'm actually going to turn to the side so that you can see the do's and the don'ts of the PVC dislocate. So first of all is I'm going to have my grip wider than my hips. I just need that for my shoulder mobility. And I'm going to push, keeping those hands neutral, so you don't want to be in that position. I'm going to actively push the broom away as I bring it up. Now let's say I get here. That could be a sticky spot for people, and I've got my rib cage locked down. So what we see a lot is people flare the rib cage to try to get the PVC pipe behind them, that is not what you want to do. So you want to focus on keeping the ribs flat so that the mobility is in only the T-spine and that you haven't really kind of cheated your way through it. So watch. I'm going to push it away. I get up here and I really, really tighten up that core to try to keep my rib cage flat. Maybe you can't get all the way back here. Who cares? You don't want to cheat your way through the mobility just to get more range. You know, you really want to try to find your own mobility here. And of course, if you're tight in the chest, you aren't going to be able to get the PVC pipe or the broom all the way back there. So I'm going to keep talking, but keep doing them. So I get here, I keep that rib cage flat. Maybe I stop here because if I went any further, I would have to unlock that rib cage and I want to keep it back down. Okay? So let's go ahead and do 2 more. Good way to use your broom when you're done. Just kind of place it back where you're going to sweep up your dinner. I know I had my kids do that. I think we're going to keep this close by. So you guys should be finishing about 1 more. And then go ahead and join me on the mat. So this position that we're going to start in is basically to stretch the neck. So I can sit like this, but a lot of people cannot. It's too much flexion in the knee, bothersome to the hips. I'm gonna cue it from here, but feel free to come up here if you want, or find some other stand, whatever, it doesn't matter. But I'm gonna cue it from here. So this is a 3-way neck stretch. I don't know about you, but when I feel super tight in the mid-back, it affects my neck. And that eventually leads to a headache, and that is no fun. So this is a good way to kind of stretch the levator scapulae and other muscles in the neck that are affected by bad posture. So you're going to take that right hand and you're going to put it behind your back. I'm going to take the other hand and I'm going to clasp it at the wrist and kind of pull that arm in that direction, okay? So you can see if I were back here, it's behind my back. That's externally rotating the shoulder, providing a little bit of extra tension here. It's okay if you can't grab where I am, just get to where you can. So I've got a little bit of extra tension, then I'm gonna start to drop my ear towards my shoulder, hold for about 2 to 3 seconds, bring it back up to start, and then I'm gonna look down at my shoulder, bring it back to center. Now we're gonna look up. Up. Again, I'm pulling and down. Let's go the other way. So I'm gonna look across and dip that ear down. So I'm pulling that opposite hand behind. Come back. We're gonna look down at the shoulder and up. So if you can't really get this hand, you can assist the neck a little bit, but I don't want you to go too much on range. So let's do that one more time. I'm gonna dip the ear down. So I have my left ear towards my left shoulder. Back up. I'm gonna tip the nose down, looking at the left elbow. And back, and then we're gonna look up. Don't forget to breathe here. Not a good time to be holding your breath. Okay, other side. So right ear to right shoulder. And up. Looking down. Nose towards the right shoulder. And back. And up. Now, let's go ahead and switch sides. Kind of like roll that out. I'm gonna take my left hand behind my back. I'm gonna hold with my right hand at that left wrist and just kind of provide a little bit of extra tension, okay? Now, I'm gonna drop my left ear towards my left shoulder. Don't forget to breathe. And back. My nose towards my shoulder. And back. And then up. Again, some of those neck rolls might have helped you here. We'll go back into a little bit of chin nod later. Other side, right ear towards right shoulder. And we're gonna go down, taking the nose towards the right shoulder, and back, and up. Looking up towards your right shoulder, above the right shoulder, and back. One more time. Left ear to the shoulder. Really big stretch through the neck there, guys. And back. Nose towards the left elbow. And back. I look up. And back. Right ear to the right shoulder. And back. Looking down towards the right elbow. And back and up. Okay, go ahead and roll those shoulders out, checking where we're going next from here. Exactly what I was talking about, the head nods. So again, we've been talking a lot about T-spine extension. We're gonna look for a little bit of lumbar extension here. So this is what we would call quadruped there at the gym, but this time I want you to tuck your toes under. So this is called a quadruped rock. So you can see as I start to shoot the hips back towards the heels, this can stay active, guys. So we're gonna just start with our quadruped rocks. So what I am hoping that you feel is a little bit of extension in the low back. Very different from child's pose. When we shoot back into child's pose, we end up with flexion in the low back. By tucking those toes under, we start to have the opposite direction of the spine, that extension. So from the T-spine down to the lumbar spine. If I go ahead and hold it back there in my rock, I can tuck the chin down and then try to lift the nose up slightly. And you probably start to feel where you have some tight spots that run from the middle of the back to the base of the neck. This is a way to kind of find out where those spots are hiding. And then just go nice and slow. Again, if you guys start to feel dizzy at all doing any of this, just stop and regroup. Join me when you're ready. Go ahead and do 3 more. So staying in your quadruped rock, just chin nods up and down. Don't forget to breathe. Still trying to use that diaphragm here, in through the nose and out through the mouth. Okay, so next up we have, I have this written down so I don't forget. Quadruped scap circles. So it's similar to a scap push-up. If you go ahead and join me back into your quadruped position. So I don't want you to bend the elbows. So you're gonna stay relatively straight in the elbow, but you don't have to lock out. And we're gonna be working some scap circles. So kind of a funky movement, but very good. We sometimes do this at the gym where you're hanging from the bar, and it might seem like you have a little bit more ability to do that. I hope you guys can see that, and I can go in the other direction as well. So just using those shoulder blades to kind of work through the joint. Belly's a little tight. Make sure that you breathe here. This forward motion feels a lot stickier for me. So again, back, keeping the elbows forward or straight and forward. So play with that a couple more times, guys. Just trying to keep that elbow from bending so you're not going into some kind of like push-up combination. And then we're going to go into what I call a flow. So we're going to use a couple different positions to really find an open shoulder. So if I come back into my quadruped position, I'm going to go ahead and keep the bottoms or the tops of your feet on the floor. So without shrugging your shoulders by your ears, you don't want to be there. So make sure you're kind of in that neutral position, flat back. I'm going to pinch my shoulder blades together, and then at the same time that I pull them apart, I'm going to lift just my knees off the ground. So kind of like a loaded beast. But again, I was shoulder blades pinched together, And then I come into shoulder blades down and back into here. Then you're gonna come out into your FLR position and tip back into downward dog. So a bit of a flow. Let's walk back through it. Go to your quadruped position. Let's actually breathe this time. Okay, so I'm going to inhale, shoulder blades together. Exhale, pull apart into the loaded beast. Inhale into your FLR and exhale into downward dog. Flow right back into that, guys. You're gonna come back into your quadruped position. Inhale, shoulder blades together. Exhale, apart, loaded beast. Inhale, FLR. Exhale, downward dog. I hope you guys are breathing there with me. It's hard for me to show the breath and cue at the same time. So let's do it again. You inhale, shoulder blades together. Exhale, loaded beast, scaps apart. Inhale, FLR. Exhale, really open those shoulders in your downward dog. I'm feeling like we need to do another one of those. So you're gonna inhale, quadruped, scaps together. Exhale, loaded beast, scaps apart. Inhale, FLR. And exhale, downward dog. Good, so that's just a little bit of a flow to try to get a little deeper into your downward dog where the shoulders are very open. You should start to feel that as we've been working for about a half hour now. Okay, we're gonna transition down onto the mat for some mobility exercises that are effective for the T-spine. The first one is gonna be open book. So you're gonna come down onto the mat, laying onto your back. I'm gonna take my arms out into a T and I'm going to stack the knees over onto one side and then go ahead and glide your palm over into your closed book position. So I've got my palms stacked, shoulders, hips, and knees. This one I'm gonna open up like a clock. So I'm gonna inhale and I want you to go ahead and sweep the arm open. So you've opened your book here. And then on your exhale, you're just gonna retrace your steps. Bringing that hand overhead, should be finishing back into the closed position. Inhale, try to really work T-spine here. So as you continue, I'm just gonna walk through a couple faults that you don't wanna do. So this top knee, you don't want it to shift back, pushing the whole hip back in order to get your shoulder blade on the floor. Of course, I can do that if I let my hip shift back, but I've compromised the point of the exercise, which is T-spine rotation. If I really am honoring my T-spine mobility, I keep my knees stacked one on top of each other. I cannot get this shoulder blade on the floor, but I don't care because I can really feel the rotation there in the mid-back, okay? Let's do one more because you've been working as I've been talking. So I inhale here, I keep my knees together. Exhale back, okay? So let's go ahead and switch sides. If you have not, start to roll yourself back over. I also feel that a little bit in my low back, which just goes to show you that where you're tight in your mid back, you can feel that sometimes only in the low back, but it all roots back to the mid back. Does that make sense? Yeah, it made sense to me. So you're gonna inhale, you're gonna open your book, glue your knees together, start to follow that with the gaze. I don't have enough room here with the wall, but you guys should hopefully have set up in a position that you can fully access your open book position. So you're gonna be inhaling, keep going, inhaling as you open the book. So drag the fingertips around, glue those knees together, and then you're gonna use the exhale as you come back, keeping the hips stacked, the knees stacked, the palms stacked there at the end. So you've got two more. Inhaling into your open position. Don't be afraid to let that belly really expand on the inhale. We're not squeezing the abdominals here. And then go ahead and close the book. Let's do one more, guys. Open book and close book. All right, so we're gonna move on. I'm gonna go ahead and grab my broom or my PVC pipe or nothing. You don't have to use anything here. The main thing I'm doing here is working, again, the combination of strength and mobility is what you need for T-spine health. You cannot be strong and locked up, and you can't be mobile and weak. Those combinations won't make you a good athlete. So we're looking for strength and mobility. So here being a little bit more strength, I'm gonna grasp the broom, keep my nose right above, and I'm just gonna start to lift the broom up and lower down. So don't hold your breath here. It might be a good idea to go ahead and pull that navel away from the mat so that you have a little bit of low back support, but making sure that you can still breathe. That is a lot harder to do when we're in these prone positions on the floor because our belly's on the floor, so it's hard to feel like we're expanding our belly, but I still want you to try to use that diaphragmatic breath. Good. Let's do one more. And then we're gonna go ahead and drop any device that you've been using, the broom or whatever. And you're gonna come into your Y position, similar to how we do scorpion. But this time, I actually want you to lift the whole arm up and rotate, and then come back down. I'm gonna alternate sides. So I'm gonna lift my opposite arm up. I'm gonna rotate. I'm actually starting to look a little bit at that hand so you're not staring at the floor, almost like as you're coming into this kind of like rotating airplane position. And wow, do I feel that in the mid-back. Strengthening exercise for the T-spine. It's awesome, guys. So keep going. It's hard to talk through this and breathe properly. So I'm gonna just do maybe one rep on each side without talking, because that's what you guys are doing. I want you to breathe in and out, so it would look like this. So you wanna glue those legs to the floor. They're not lifting up. Inhaling here. Exhaling back. One more. Inhale. And exhale. So let's go ahead and bring the arms a little bit farther apart like a T, and we'll go into an active scorpion. So you're just gonna take opposite foot across the body, and we're gonna alternate active scorpion here. Opening up that chest, you could slide the hands back out to the Y, especially if you experience tightness in the chest. Then you're gonna get a little bit of a deeper stretch of your anterior muscles there in your chest. Try to keep your palms open and pushing into the mat. Continue alternating your scorpion here, side to side. Good, so I want you to even out your sides, 2 more scorpion on each side. And we're gonna end up back on our bellies. So we call this prone position. Okay, so we're gonna do a version of Blackburn. If you are a regular member of the gym, probably know what that is, but this is a little different. So I will go ahead and show you. I'm gonna take my palms and I'm gonna put the tops of my hands on my low back. I'm gonna let my elbows rest down to the floor, and maybe that's even a little tight for some of you. So then I'm going to use my breath. I'm gonna inhale as I lift my elbows up. And then I'm gonna start to sweep my palms back like I'm flying through the air. And then like the butterfly stroke of swimming, I'm gonna start to curl them forward like as if I'm doing butterfly stroke. And then keep them up as high as you can. Once you get here, try to bring them to the back of your head and then retrace your steps. sweeping the arms forward and all the way back. I get here, I bring them back down. So again, it's actually hard to do that and talk through it. So it looks like this. Elbows up, arms sweep back. Lift them up as high as you can, and then start to sweep the arms forward. And then while you're keeping those arms up as high as you can, try to bring them together to the back of your head. Sweeping them forward again and retrace your steps. That's pretty intense, guys, so let's do 2 more. I'm back where I started. I'm gonna inhale, elbows up, lift the fingertips back. You're breathing here, guys. Sweep them forward, lift them up as high as you can, and then try to keep them lifted. Touch the back of your head just gently. Oh man, that extension in the T-spine is intense. Are you guys feeling that? Woo! And down. We've got 1 more. Is anyone at home doing this with me? Oh my word. Sweep it forward. Keep it up as high as you can. This one I'm struggling on just to finish. And my arms reach back. And retrace. Woo! Sit back, child's pose. I just made that up now because I don't know about you guys, but I need it. So I'm just gonna softly sit back in that child's pose. Start to use your diaphragmatic breath here to just give yourself a breather. That was intense. Go ahead and stay there, guys. Keep breathing. All right. Staying in your child's pose, just give that another breath. Use those rib cage all the way through your back. Let that whole torso expand on your breath. Good. We're almost there, guys. We're working our way towards the end of this recovery. What I'd like to go into now is just a frog position with some active T-spine. So it's kind of a 2-for-1. So you're going to start to widen the hips a little bit and try to externally rotate those ankles. And then I just want you to try to thread one hand through. We're not going to hang out there though. We're going to come back. We're going to go to the other side. I like this one because your hips are in a locked position in frog. So it does prevent you from using the hips to rotate instead of the T-spine, which is possible like when we are in quadruped position and we have you guys T-spine rotate. It's possible to open up that hip for more rotation instead of actually hitting the range that you have. So when you lock the hips down in your frog, it allows you to really focus on that mid-back up to the neck. I hope you guys are still working with me here. Go ahead and do 1 more on each side and then join me back into the mat. Okay, so 2 more left. The version that you may start with is an S-wave or holding cow's face, which is a yoga term. So I'm going to turn this way. So again, you have the option to be here or here if that is not comfortable for your knees. So if you have good shoulder mobility, cow's face is where I can actually grip my fingertips together, and then if I were to let go of them, sweeping around in that S position, I can clasp them again. If you cannot achieve this, just holding the stretch with a towel in between your fingers. So I don't have to get my hands as close together, but I do have external rotation really going on in both of those shoulders. And then you can go ahead and switch. If you were holding that towel, you'd be gripping it here. So if that's not comfortable, then you're just going to start working on some S-wave. So keeping it a little bit more active. working a little bit of shoulder mobility here, hopefully feeling a little less tight than you did in the beginning. Let's just do that for a couple more reps. And then we're gonna follow up with a little bit of child's pose breathing, similar to what we just did, because I worked that in at the end anyway. And then I'm gonna end up stopping the video, but kind of walking you through how to do some breathing and meditation on your own as the video ends. So let's finish up, a couple more diaphragmatic breaths here in child's pose. Knees are wide apart, fingertips are wide here, and I'm just breathing. So I'm now going to invite you guys to maybe pause your video, turn off the lights, make your space really comfortable and relaxing. Make it what you want, whether you need to add a little bit of instrumental music or anything that you need to do to disconnect from the noise that's going on in your life and stay present in this moment. Go ahead and do that now. I'm going to end up turning the video off in about a minute or two, but keep that silence for yourself for as long as you need. You're just going to be practicing some breathing and trying to stay present. Connect that breath. Breath is very grounding. You can't get a past breath back, and you can't plan a next breath. So you just stay grounded in each breath as it happens. Can be a very good tool for the mind to practice mindfulness and staying present. I think Beth did a post on Saturday, which with some great biblical quotes about staying present and not letting anxiety kind of drag you away from the present. So your meditation would begin on your own, just focusing on breathing in through the nose, out through the mouth, calming the body from head to toe, scanning that from the top of your head and kind of working your way down to your feet, just using that breath, not letting the mind wander, or using that time for prayer, connect with God, whatever your faith may be. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the video here, but I do invite you to spend a couple of minutes just laying on the floor, relaxing your body into the mat like you're melting. So really start to lose track of body and mat and just kind of allow yourself to melt down into the ground and stay present with that breath. And I also want to thank you for joining me for recovery today, and I can't wait to do this again next week.